In 2025, Canada heads to the polls, and the voices of GTA Muslims matter more than ever. We're the fastest growing population in the Greater Toronto Area, and we're bringing our values, concerns, and hopes to the ballot box. From global justice to local struggles, housing, Islamophobia, foreign policy, the issues affecting Muslims are on the front lines. Introducing GTA Muslims Today, your go-to source for exclusive federal election 2025 coverage. Watch GTA Muslims Today, only on Muslim Network TV.
Assalamu alaikum and good evening. Welcome to Muslim Network TV's special election coverage. Bienvenue à GTA Muslims aujourd'hui. Rejoignez-nous pour notre couverture en direct des élections fédérales de 2025. I'm Aisha Ashraf with GTA Muslims Today.
Assalamu alaikum, and I'm Moiz Rahman. Over the next 2 hours, we'll bring you live updates, interviews with key candidates, and expert analysis as Canadians cast their votes. And if you have any questions or thoughts, leave a comment below. We'd love to hear from you throughout tonight's coverage.
Canadians are voting today for their 45th federal election. The voting continues till 9 p.m. across time zones. Results in the GTA will start coming in after 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Under Canadian election rules, federal campaign periods must be at least 37 days long, but no more than 51 days. This year's campaign has been shortest allowable by law. For the past 36 days, the leaders have pitched themselves as the nation's best option to fight tariff threats from the U.S.
Canadians are casting their votes today in an election that has been dominated by issues like affordability, tariffs, and U.S. President Donald Trump's annexation threats. If Conservatives win, they will end nearly a decade of Liberal rule that began in 2015 with former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. If Liberals remain in power, a political newcomer but experienced economist will be handed a mandate to guide Canada through a period of uncertainty. It is not yet known who Canadians will choose as their next leader. What is known is that the next Prime Minister will have a face an unpredictable White House that has questioned Canada's sovereignty. At home, many Canadians are eagerly waiting for quick action to address inflation and high cost of living.
In a generationally important vote, many Canadians are expected to ditch third-party candidates and vote Liberal or Conservative. Until as recently as January, the Conservatives had what many believed to be a clear path to winning a parliamentary majority. However, Justin Trudeau's resignation has pushed the Liberal Party into the limelight once again. Most recent polls now suggest the Liberals will get a lead over the Tories or be locked in a neck-and-neck fight.
The New Democratic Party has been losing support, mostly to the Liberal Party. Polls show that party support has declined to 8.1% from 17.8% in the last federal election. Support for the Regional Bloc Québécois Party has also gone down from 7.6% to 6%. The far-right People's Party is projected to lose more than half of its 5% tally in the last election. Experts say the votes will likely go to the Conservatives.
Up next, our co-host, Elia Batul, has a look at some important Brampton stats and information on the new riding. Elia, over to you. All right, so Brother Moiz, have you done any voting yet?
I have. I had the ability to go in the morning, and to my luck, it actually wasn't busy at all.
Oh, that's nice.
I know, I'm so grateful for it, right? I was able to get my voting done. It wasn't too busy at that time, and alhamdulillah, I made it to work on time too. What about you?
Oh, perfect. I have not had the chance yet. Even with advanced voting, things have just been so busy, as you surely know, with the election. So I will be going later today and exercising my right to vote.
That's amazing. And I hope everyone who's watching this conversation will find inspiration to go vote as well.
Yes. Now we're heading on to Ilya.
Thank you, Moise and Aisha. I am here in Brampton reporting live to you from GTA Muslims Today. The city of Brampton estimates that it has over 80,000 Muslims with diverse backgrounds. The city of Brampton is facing a change this election. For the past 3 elections, Brampton consisted of 5 ridings, all within city limits. However, this election, there's a new riding that has been introduced, Brampton Chinguzi Park. It is bound by Highway 410 to the west and the Mississauga border to the south. Here in this riding, Hafiz Munib Ahmed represents the Centrist Party of Canada, while Shafqat Ali represents the Liberal Party. Our reporter Ahmed Ramadan recently got a chance to speak to Shafqat Ali about Canadian sovereignty and the leadership of Mark Carney. This is what he had to say.
My name is Shafqat Ali. I'm the Liberal candidate from Brampton Chinguzi Park. I was raised by a single mom. I was 10 when my father passed away. This is the most consequential election of our lifetime. People are looking up to Mark Carney because of his experience, his resume, and his serious leadership. And Canada has been a champion of peace. And also had the opportunity to visit Palestine along with 4 other colleagues in delegation in January.
Assalamu alaikum. I am Ahmed Ramadan for Muslim Network TV, and this is GTA Muslims Today. I'm standing here with Shafqat Ali, who's seeking re-election in Brampton Chinguzi for the Liberal Party. Shafqat, assalamu alaikum. Thank you for joining us.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you for being here today.
So you're seeking re-election for your 2nd term. How is this time around different from the last time?
You know, election, I don't think it's a different like a last time. Election, when you get into campaign, you just go, you door knock, you have more conversation, you engage, volunteer, you try to put forward your leadership, your party's platform, and then, you excite people to come out and vote. So that's every election is like that. But one thing I see that this is the most consequential election of our lifetime because of Trump tariff situation we're facing, in our sovereignty is at risk because of that Trump stance on Canada's somehow getting a 51 state, which will never happen. And Canadians are excited to, and with the emerging leadership of Mark Carney in Liberal Party has excited people from across the country, all walks of life, all age group. They got excited and they are behind Mark Carney, and they believe that he's the leader who can unite us, who can build our economy, and who can make Canada strong.
So you've just mentioned it, how Mark Carney has come into power. You've obviously been knocking on a lot of doors and speaking to the community. You've already served a term, obviously. Do you see that excitement from your constituents? And what other issues do you feel like they've been concerned about?
Look, the bigger issue is Canada's sovereignty. Canada is economy, affordability. These are the issues. But this issue of sovereignty and patriotism and a nation coming together, it is on the back of people's mind. Every conversation you have, people see it. Mark Carney is the only leadership who can bring people together and who can stand up to President Trump. That is the conversation people have in their mind. And obviously, affordability and housing are other issues people have there in their conversation. But most importantly, how to save jobs, how to rebuild our economy, how to face Donald Trump, how we can stand up, and how we can make a one economy. People are looking up to Mark Carney because of his experience, his resume, and his serious leadership.
So obviously you're in a very multicultural community. The GTA in general is very diverse, ethnicities from all over the place. One issue that people are very concerned about is international issues, and specifically what's taking place in Palestine and in Gaza. I wanted to give you an opportunity to comment on that.
Look, Canada is based always, Canada has helped establish international institutions. whether it's international law, the International Court of Justice, humanitarian law. And Canada has been a champion of peace. Our position is aligned with that humanitarian law and international law. Obviously, the international issues, including what is a situation in Middle East. I had the opportunity to call for ceasefire on Gaza, and also had the opportunity to visit Palestine along with 4 other colleagues in delegation in January. So our position is, our leader's position is pretty clear as well, that Palestine as a state needs to be established along with Israel, that they both can live with a peace, and that is our position.
So my last question to you is, what keeps you going? What motivates you to stay in politics and run?
Politics is, for me, is a service. It is a community service. I was raised by a single mom. I was 10 when my father passed away. I have seen my mother going through struggling time, and all she wanted that, she sacrificed her whole life for us to make us a better person, better human being, a better Muslim, that we can be beneficial to the community. And whenever I would do something good or help someone, she would feel good. She would feel accomplished, that she her sacrificed paying off in terms of her kids are being a good person and being beneficial to the community. So that is, for me, is a passion, community service, and for me, politics is not negativity, not division, not attacking. This is to deliver services in the community and making a difference in the community for our country, for our society, and being a positive role model in our society. That's what I believe in, and that's what keeps me going.
Shafqat Ali, Brampton Chinguzi Liberal candidate, thank you for taking the time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And just, my name is Shafqat Ali. I'm the Liberal candidate from Brampton Chinguzi Park. I request you to look at my website and see, in my first term, past 4 years, I was able to bring 67 affordable units in our riding, millions of dollars for Canada Summer Job, millions of dollars for Housing Accelerator Fund for Brampton, millions of dollars for infrastructure funding for Brampton. I had 2 visit international delegation, one in Pakistan, to help people who were, to assess the situation, and Canada had supported that devastating situation due to flooding. Because of that delegation's recommendation, Canada did about $33 million support to Pakistan government, and also had the opportunity to visit Bahrain and also in Palestine. And here I had over 300 intervention in the committees and the House of Commons. I want to be your strong voice in House of Commons, and I urge you to help me to re-elect me from Brampton Chinguzi Park, so I can join Mark Carney to build Canada strong.
Thank you, Brother Ahmed, for that interview. So here is the situation in Brampton. So all current MPs in Brampton are Liberal, but with the new ridings and the inclusion of Caledon, the Liberal ruling is being contested, and there's uncertainty in the air, with the Conservatives inching closer. We'll see how it all plays out tonight. And he also spoke about Palestine at the end, and that's something that NDP leader Jagmeet Singh mentioned as well. And Brother Moise will now pivot into our interview.
Our reporter, Ahmed Ramadan, spoke with NDP leader Jagmeet Singh about their core values, the ongoing genocide in Gaza, and why the third party is important. Let's see what he had to say.
Something my mom taught me is this idea that we're all connected. If anyone around us is facing harm or is hurting, we're also hurting. If one party has all the power, they ignore the issues that people are going through. And so right now, if Mark Carney has all the power, he's not going to actually stand up for the things that matter. I talked about human rights violations going on in South Asia and in India by the Modi government against minority governments. I took a really strong stance on what's going on in Gaza. Clearly, it's a genocide.
Assalamu alaikum. I am Ahmed Ramadan from Muslim Network TV, and this is GTA Muslims Today. I'm standing here with the leader of the NDP party, Jagmeet Singh. Jagmeet, I know it's a very busy time. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
So my first question to you is, you were elected leader in 2017.
That's right.
What drives you? What keeps you going?
You know, I believe that we are better off if we take care of each other. We're better off if we look out for one another. And something my mom taught me is this idea that we're all connected. If anyone around us is facing harm or is hurting, we're also hurting. And if we help the people around us, we all rise together. So that's what drives me, this idea of that solidarity, that connection, that oneness we have.
So you've been speaking a lot to many different communities all across Canada. What are some of the issues that you feel people are most concerned about?
They're worried about cost of living. They're worried about homes and how expensive they are. They're worried about groceries. And we got to, our plan is to ban big corporations from buying up affordable homes, to build homes that people can actually afford. We need to invest in real solutions like cooperative housing, not-for-profit housing, and homes that young people can actually buy by investing with federal money to build those homes that are truly affordable. And then for groceries, we want to cap the price of food essentials. This is something France has done and Greece has done. They basically say you can't charge more than a reasonable amount for food essentials, and that'll bring down prices.
So obviously Canada is very diverse. There's a lot of different kind of people, and some of them are a little bit worried about what's taking place both in the US but also internationally. One of the things actually that you did during the debate, which a lot of people were very happy that you did, which is challenge Carney on calling what's taking place in Gaza a genocide. I just wanted to give you an opportunity to discuss some of the more international issues that are going on.
Yeah, I mean, we're a party that believes in human rights and peace and justice for everybody. I took a really strong stance on what's going on in Gaza. Clearly, it's a genocide, and you need to name something to be able to stop it. You can't call it what it is. How can we actually stop the harm that's happening? But we've also raised concerns about other human rights violations around the world. Whenever we see someone in pain or struggling, we want to raise those issues. So we talked about how the people in Yemen are struggling. We've got people in Eritrea and Ethiopia that are going through lots of loss. Sudan is an issue that people often ignore, and the pain and the plight of the people there. I talked about human rights violations going on in South Asia and in India by the Modi government against minority governments. So we believe in peace and justice for everybody, and so you can always count on us to raise that voice.
So I know we don't have a lot of time with you. I just want to ask you one more question. Why is it important? And I want you to let our viewers know why it's important for third parties to run in elections, and why that helps our system.
I mean, we're a Canadian system. We're not a two-party system. It's one of our strengths, right? If you look at America, there's just two parties. All the great things in our country happened when New Democrats had a position of power to bring them in. Our universal health care, that happened when New Democrats were there. Our old age pension, our CPP, our old age security, all these things that we believe in, where we take care of each other, happened when New Democrats had power. And recently we brought in dental care, the first steps of pharmacare. We were able to get these things done. If one party has all the power, they ignore the issues that people are going through. And so right now, if Mark Carney has all the power, he's not going to actually stand up for the things that matter. When New Democrats are there, we can push them to do the right things. If the only parties in Parliament are a Liberal majority and Conservatives, then they're going to have a horrible stance on human rights, a horrible stance on global issues. They're not going to actually care about working people. They're not going to care about you and your family. We're the only voice that will always be dedicated to the issues that impact everyday people. Cost of groceries, cost of homes, and taking on the big corporations that are ripping you off. When it comes to peace and justice and the international issues that Canada speaks on, we're the only ones pushing Canada to take bold and progressive and justice and principle-based positions. We believe in that. So if you want that to happen in our country, you need New Democrats in Ottawa.
Jagmeet, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
My honor, brother.
Brother Ahmed Ramadan, thank you so much for that. Sister, it is so rare to see Jagmeet Singh not only do an exclusive chat, but be raw with the information he's sharing. What did you think about the interview?
Absolutely. I think it's such a privilege for us to have been able to get him on our platform. And what I really respect about what he said is, he's very open about his support for Palestinians and for Muslims. And I think that's something that a lot of Muslims and people in general as well are looking for in this election, looking for someone to stand up for rights, stand up for human rights, stand up for what's right. So that is really, it gives us some hope, right?
It really
It's really
does.
nice to see.
Yeah, for sure. I'm so glad we were able to have our team relentlessly reach out to him to make that happen, because I think our viewers, myself included, got tremendous amounts of value from that.
And that just shows that you keep going and you get what you work hard for. Now, we also got a chance to speak with Green Party co-leader Elizabeth May about her removal from the leaders' debate, her views on Gaza and Bill 21. Here's what she had to say.
It's not true. That's unfortunately the case. Maybe the Debates Commission, having no commissioner, lacked the capacity to understand their own rules. We had nominated 342 candidates. They reviewed the Green Party's status against the criteria set by the commission and ruled that we would be in the debates. Even the day before, they confirmed we'd be in the debates. The difficulty that occurred, there was no decision by Green Party at any level to remove candidates for any reason. All of our candidates were trying to get their paperwork in. We all had, differing degrees of difficulty, but the rules established by the Debates Commission were not how many candidates you had on the ballot, but how many you had nominated. Many of our nominated candidates, given the nature of the snap election, a lot of new returning officers who were confused about the rules, and a new public climate where people were unwilling to say to a stranger, here's my name, my address, and my signature to get our candidates on the ballot. We have never encountered that before. We even had some of our volunteers harassed and threatened to such an extent that they didn't want to go out and collect signatures again. But just to be clear, the rules were for nominated candidates, and we met that entirely. We had a full slate of nominated candidates. It was very, very hard for us as a team to see so many of our nominated candidates have trouble filing paperwork, getting signatures, and so on. We think there needs to be changes in the Elections Act to deal with this. I've raised it already with the Privy Council Office and CSIS and their election monitoring. I raised it with them weeks before we were thrown out of the debates, and we shared it with the Debates Commission that our nominated candidates, some of our volunteers were, as I mentioned, threatened and harassed. My own husband, who is a candidate, only got in his signatures with 1 minute to spare, and a bunch of them were ruled out by the returning officer. There was so much confusion on the ground. So my response to the Debates Commission is that they behaved in an anti-democratic fashion. They have interfered with the ability in a fundamental way. They've undermined a national party running candidates in every province, the Northwest Territories and the Yukon. And at the same time that we have over 240 nominated candidates who are also on the ballot. That's where they made up a new rule, on the ballot. The Bloc Québécois was in the debates, only running in one province and with 78 candidates. And just to underscore, we only have had televised leaders debates in Canada since the 1960s, when we started having televised leaders debates around the world. This is the first time in all those elections that a political party with elected members of parliament has been kept out of debates, the only time. So it was discriminatory, anti-democratic, and they gave us no time to respond. They told the media the night before, Tuesday night, that we weren't going to be in the debates. They informed us on Wednesday morning. They deprived us of the ability to even get into a court and ask for review, and they never met with us to give us a chance to rebut their erroneous conclusions that were wrong, factually wrong. So our response is that this is an outrage. Well, especially, I'm a sitting member of parliament, and so is Mike Morris in Kitchener Centre. By the way, I was very honored to receive the endorsement from Muslim Vote an effort to increase voter turnout around issues that matter to the Muslim community and the Islamic community. But I'm in a co-leadership situation. We've, as Greens, moved in the direction of a group called political party Quebec Solidaire in Canada, but also global Greens around the world often have co-leaders to demonstrate that it's not one person top down who should run anything. And we have a very democratic party that believes in grassroots democracy. So I was particularly, as someone who's done a lot of the leaders' debates, and by the way, faced discrimination just like this over and over again since I first got in the debates in 2008. Then they kept me out in 2011, kept me out in 2015. I got to do some of the debates in 2019. It's been constant. And then they created the Debates Commission to create fair rules. And the Debates Commission did the most unfair thing ever. But I was really looking forward to seeing my 35-year-old co-leader, who's a young man of color, who's had lots of experience in conflict zones, who is a human rights activist, Jonathan Pedneau, in the debates, being a Quebecer and from Montreal. Frankly, it was our one chance to have Quebecers recognize that we're a federal political party that also stands strongly for Quebec. Excluding Jonathan from the debates, especially the first complaint came from the Bloc Québécois. They didn't want to be having another Quebecer on the stage who supports a united Canada. In any case, the ways in which it's hurt us, we won't be able to know until after the election how much damage was done. But the damage is large and it's very anti-democratic. We're the strongest pro-Palestinian party in Parliament, and I think that there's another undercurrent to why they don't want our voices being heard in an election campaign.
It's been a tough political campaign for the Green Party, as co-leader Elizabeth May just mentioned, especially after being left out from the federal debates. Brother Moise, how do you think this affected their campaign?
It's scary, it's unfortunate, but I feel like there's so much fear now amongst the voters, especially with the tariffs being imposed.
Absolutely.
And a lot of the voters are now just being forced to choose between the top two leading parties rather than who they might believe in. And it's just splitting the vote and taking it from one party and going to the top two per se.
And you have to think about what that says about our democracy as well. Are we voting for who we think is the best leader, or are we just thinking strategically? And it really makes you think about the way that we approach elections and what leads our nation.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of streeters that we spoke to during our time canvassing, and they mentioned to us, and I'm quoting them, they said that they're forced to choose between two parties to see which one might be lesser of the evil. And that is not the direction to go, but you want to be passionate about it, but that seems to be the circumstances that we're in right now. Now, to dive deeper into the local picture, we're throwing it over to Sister Lumha Zia, who's covering the Cooksville riding, including what's happening on the ground and how the polling numbers are shaping up. Sister Lumha, over to you.
Thank you. I'm right here in front of a polling station in Cooksville, Mississauga, where we have candidates running. Peter Fonseca, the current MP from the Liberal. We have Nita Kang and many more. We have an exclusive interview with Peter Fonseca himself as well. Stay tuned to hear what he has to say. And I'm here joined with Sister Sakina from Erin Mills Mississauga riding. Sister Sakina, how are you?
Good. I mean, we're here now in just hours left before the polls close, and so as you can see, people are going in and out constantly, not just here but in other ridings across the city. And so we're very excited to see how the rest of the day goes for us as well, because we have some exciting coverage lined up for the rest of the day as well.
Yes, thank you. Stay tuned to see what we have planned for the rest of the evening, and let's see who wins.
I have the privilege of representing this community over the last 10 years federally. You know, if there's a silver lining in all of this, is that we are more unified than ever before, and Canada is stronger than ever before. In my opinion, Mark Carney, our Prime Minister and leader of the Liberal Party, is the best person to take on Donald Trump. We need a plan for a two-state solution to bring peace, to bring stability. We even take the West Bank and the really illegal occupations of those settlements areas, and that all only drives a bigger rift between people. So we need that to stop. Well, I'm 58 years old. I'm a former Olympian. I have a family, twin boys, and my wife. My wife is the city councillor here in Mississauga East, Ward 3 here in Mississauga. And what can I tell you? I have the privilege of representing this community over the last 10 years federally. I also represented this community as a member of provincial parliament for 8 years and was Minister of Labour and Minister of Tourism here in Ontario. Yeah, it's really the privilege of my life, and I'm sure many of my colleagues, to be able to represent their communities. In my case, the community of Mississauga East Cooksville. We're a very diverse community, so there are many important issues to everyone. But the main thing is that we all come together and we have the same values, and those values are Canadian values, values of being able to work together, live in peace and harmony, be able to work hard and make a better life for ourselves and our families. So all of those are the type of issues that I bring to Parliament on a daily basis. I do chair the Finance Committee in Ottawa, so a lot of it is about numbers and about budgets. But those numbers really come to life with the stories that we hear here in our community on the road. So how it's affecting a family, that has kids in school, or a family with senior parents that are in need of long-term care or in need of more health resources. All of these are stories that are shared at the door, and those are the most important things that I do as a parliamentarian. Yeah, so it's a wide variety of things that we hear, but I have to say, if you look at the top issues right now, it's how Canada is being affected by Donald Trump and the Trump administration, and the threats on Canada. It's unheard of, to have a neighbor country, the United States, really attack Canada economically, attack Canada in many other ways, disrespecting Canada. So I hear about this. If there's a silver lining in all of this, is that we are more unified than ever before, and Canada is stronger than ever before. So what Canadians are telling me, they're looking for leadership here in Mississauga, of course, in Ontario, in Canada, to be able to take on Donald Trump and the Americans in terms of what they're trying to do to Canada, trying to hurt Canada. And I think, in my opinion, Mark Carney, our Prime Minister and the leader of the Liberal Party, is the best person to take on Donald Trump. And this affects other things that people are talking about. People talk about day-to-day issues, affordability, cost of food, cost of housing, etc. But the way that Donald Trump's attack, that affects all of this, and people understand that. So the main thing is to address and to be able to have a strategy, have a plan to push back on Donald Trump and address this crisis. Well, first, let me say it is it's very tragic and sad to see how many people have been hurt, killed, affected there in Gaza, but right across, the Middle East and across the world, because this affects people right here in my community of Mississauga East Cooksville that have extended family or relations, and also that have a tremendous love for that region, for Palestine, for Gaza, etc. Since the beginning, I have stood up in Parliament to call for, of course, a ceasefire, also to be able to provide humanitarian aid to those that have been affected. So many hundreds of thousands of people in Gaza that have been displaced that need our support and help. But in the end, what we really need is, we've had almost 80 years of conflict in that region. We need a plan for a two-state solution to bring peace, to bring stability, to bring a way that both the Palestinians and Israelis can live side by side in their own states. This is what we need. And we're getting, seeing what's happening, like we even take the West Bank and the really illegal occupations of those settlements areas, and that all only drives a bigger rift between people. So we need that to stop. We need to provide aid, and we need to bring stability and support back to Gaza and back to the region. My message to all the viewers, especially at this time, is to exercise your right to vote. You know, we take for granted sometimes in Canada that we have this beautiful right to be able to vote in a democracy here in Canada. In many places in the world, this is not possible. As we've just talked about, you know, places that are stricken by war and violence and difficult situations. So please, I implore everybody to get out, bring your kids. I remember the first time I went to a voting location. That was with my father. I was 5 years old. He brought me, he showed me how it works. And from then on, when I was able to vote, I became a voter. So be a voter here in Canada. I am asking for your support if you live in Mississauga, East Cooksville. I'm the Liberal candidate here. I'm Peter Fonseca, and it's been an honor and a privilege to be able to represent you in the House of Commons.
Thank you to Peter Fonseca for taking the time to speak with our team members. Now we will be taking a short break and we'll be right back.
In 2025, Canada heads to the polls, and the voices of GTA Muslims matter more than ever. We're the fastest growing population in the Greater Toronto Area, and we're bringing our values, concerns, and hopes to the ballot box. From global justice to local struggles, housing, Islamophobia, foreign policy, the issues affecting Muslims are on the front lines. Introducing GTA Muslims Today, your go-to source for exclusive federal election 2025 coverage. Watch GTA Muslims Today, only on Muslim Network TV.
Welcome back to GTA Muslims Today. Now we're going to be taking a closer look at Streetsville, the riding and the polling numbers there. We're sending it over to Sakina Ghayur.
Thank you. We are here reporting live from Streetsville, Mississauga, one of the oldest cities in the entirety of Mississauga, which is home to some of the most historic buildings and structures in the city, including some of the oldest food spots. In this riding, we've had candidate Richie Valdez, who has been MP since 2021 and who is running again for re-election. Along with her, we have candidate Bushra Asghar from the NDP, Christopher Hill from the Green Party, and we have we also have Sue McFadden from the Conservative. And we've been talking to these candidates as well as some people and voters in the area. So you can check out some exclusive interviews and sound bites from these voters and from these candidates on GTA Muslims Today.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to GTA Muslims Today. Today I'm here with NDP candidate Bushra Asghar. We're going to be asking her about some of the pressing questions that voters have. Thank you so much for taking out the time to be here with us today. To start off, can you tell us a little bit about why we're here today, what this event is all about, and what's going to be happening throughout the evening?
Absolutely. So today our campaign is hosting an event on community safety where we're flipping the script on crimes in the suburbs. So really talking about a lot of the crimes that are constantly happening in our community but go underreported, specifically hate crimes, crimes against that minorities face. Things like break and enters and like auto theft. Of course, they've increased in rates across the suburbs, and of course have there needs to be a response to those, and to the point where they become a national issue, right? But something else that constituents of the suburbs also face are hate crimes, which have also gone up increasingly in the last 2 years. And that is not something that has gained the same level of recognition or response. And so that's kind of the conversation that we're going to be having today with folks from different communities. So we have a writer named Eric Shatosky from Spring Magazine, and he talks a lot about prisoners' rights and rights on these things with Spring Magazine. We have another speaker named Karanveer Singh, who is an organizer with Justice for Truck Drivers, which is a group of truck drivers that have experienced wage theft as migrants in Canada, sometimes up to $70,000, where they haven't been paid their wages for years on end, and they've followed the process through the labor courts and still haven't been able to get that money. And so we're going to be having those sort of critical conversations on what crime actually looks like for everyday working people.
So you spoke about crime. What are some of the other issues as you've been canvassing the last few days, last few weeks, as you've been talking to voters? What are some of the other issues that voters are facing or talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. I've talked to probably like 1,000 people so far in the last couple of weeks, if not more. And I would say that, you know, affordability is a huge thing. It's one of the reasons why I'm running, because in my day job, when I'm not running in the election, I pressure the federal government to create jobs for young people that are paid at a living wage. And, you know, in Canada, we're dealing with a decade high youth unemployment, which the response to which has been very slow, and it hasn't been at the scale that's required. I've worked with young people for the last 10 years, and it's really jarring. You know, a lot of folks are expected to work for free for 4 to 5 years after having multiple degrees, and that just shouldn't be the case. What I've seen from the federal government, specifically the Liberal government, is that they've actually blamed the crisis of the lack of jobs in the job market and the lack of housing onto international students, which oftentimes, you know, what I say is that I'm not fighting for those same jobs or the same housing as someone who has 2 degrees or 10 years of work experience, right? But it's just easy to get that rhetoric like pulled into media, which is honestly really, we should be very careful of it, right? Because it breeds racism, it breeds bigotry, all of the things that we're going to be talking about today. So affordability is a huge thing. You know, a lot of people, their rents haven't decreased, their wages have stagnated, their bills have continued to skyrocket. And some of the conversations that I'm having at the door is about how our campaign is grassroots. It's run by small donations, and we have no corporations backing us, right? Unlike some of the major parties, when you actually do a little bit of research, you look at who is backing what, and, you know, that's scary, right? Your everyday bill is not going to be brought down if folks like Gail and Weston are backing your political party that then gets a majority in government. So those are one of the conversations that I've been having. And then I would say specifically with the Muslim community, you know, we've been talking about Islamophobia, which is going to be something that we talk about in this event. It's something that I really care about as someone that identifies as a Canadian Muslim. I grew up in Mississauga, and I remember 2015. I remember Stephen Harper's government, right? It was extremely Islamophobic. There were multiple, there were even attempts to strip Muslims of their citizenship, right? And so all of those things, I think we should be like really cognizant of. I think folks' memories, like the public's political memory is really small. So you have to like kind of you have to like bring that up and remind people of like what these parties have done historically for community or what they haven't done.
Yeah, so building on that, what are some of the things that your party is planning to do to combat that rise of Islamophobia that we've been seeing, unfortunately?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like I'm here as like a local MP. I'm not, I think the party slowly drifts their campaign platform, but I think it's so important to elect a local champion, right? That's what I've been saying to folks at the door. At the end of the day, when you're in a crisis, you're not going to call the leader of your party. You're going to call your local MP. And so you need to make sure that that person can actually the person will actually respond to your call, will actually listen to your problems and do crisis control. I've spent the last 10 years doing anti-harassment work on college campuses, from doing sexual misconduct work to anti-racism work. So this is something that I really care about, and that's what I'm bringing into my campaign to run through. And another key part of this campaign is that I'm only candidate in this riding that has taken a principled stance against the war in Palestine. And it's actually one of the key motivations as to why I decided to run in this election. We're watching our communities get massacred abroad, and there seems to be very little accountability and honestly outright lies by the governing party. And so this campaign is powered by movements. It's powered by people that have been organizing on this cause for years now, and we see that. We see that in the events that we're hosting, the gatherings we're doing, the doors that we're knocking.
Amazing. That's really refreshing to hear. We're here at the office of Liberal candidate Richie Valdez. We're going to be asking her some of the pressing questions that voters have. And thank you so much for taking the time out and being here with us today. I guess I'll kind of just go straight into it. How has the elections and the campaign been looking like for you so far?
Thank you. First of all, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much, Sakina and Muslim Network TV for having me. Right now, we're sitting in the campaign office here in Mississauga, Streetsville, 19 Pearl Street. Can I just say it's so exciting. A big shout out to the team who are here every day, all the volunteers who have come out. That's what drives me. We motivate each other, we get each other going to knock on those doors and to help get the word out as far as what our Liberal government has been doing and will continue to do pre and post election. So it's been very positive, I would say. And to be honest, it's one of those things where it's been an honor and privilege to be able to represent Mississauga Streetsville for 3 years and 5 months. This is a neighborhood where I grew up. All my childhood memories are here. My children were born right at Credit Valley Hospital. So really it's been quite the honor.
That's amazing. That's amazing to hear. So I guess as we come closer and closer, can you elaborate a little bit on what are some of the things that your party stands for and will continue to stand for?
Absolutely. Well, here in Mississauga, let's talk about the things that are on people's minds, whether that's housing and affordability and the rising cost of what people are feeling when they go to the grocery store or if they fill up their gas at the pumps. Our government has always advocated for housing and the development of housing, especially through the Housing Accelerator Fund. Federally, what we do is we work directly with the City of Mississauga, and we've provided $112 million to help develop homes here. And thank goodness, with the help of the City of Mississauga and the leadership of Mayor Carolyn Parrish, we've made an agreement with the City of Mississauga to develop 36,000 homes over the next 10 years. And that funding has helped with that. The funding has also helped with infrastructure, affordable housing, to make sure we're not just building houses, but we're building houses right where it matters, which is close to Streetsville and Meadowvale GO Station, for example. And then when we look at affordability, Prime Minister Mark Carney made a recent announcement to cut taxes for the middle class. This is putting $852 back into the pockets of middle class Canadians. And we were also proposing to cut the GST off homes that are less than $1 million. And this will be tens of thousands of dollars in savings to help those who are trying to buy their first home.
Amazing. Thank you so much for elaborating. I think another issue that's on a lot of people's minds right now is the issue of the continuing rise of Islamophobia in Canada. And so what are some of the things that your party is going to be doing to combat Islamophobia on an ongoing basis?
First and foremost, we will continue to stand and fight against Islamophobia, to fight against hate in all forms, whether it's Islamophobia, hate against Black people, Indigenous persons, any form of hate. We believe, much like our Constitution, that we believe that everyone has the right to practice whatever religion that they choose to do. We live in a free country where we're actually really fortunate to live in a country where we can express ourselves and be exactly who we are. And we're going to continue to fight against Islamophobia and stand up against the incidents that we're seeing in terms of the rise of Islamophobia as well.
Okay, thank you so much. And I guess elaborating on that, what are some of the things that your party will do to address systemic racism, the policing of immigration, things like that moving forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, we will continue to advocate for fighting against hate in all forms, and we can do that through legislation or putting forward things to ensure that we can fight and, again, build the type of community that advocates for everyone's equal fair rights and inclusivity. And what I think is really important is we actually have a representative that helps with, that fights against Islamophobia. And that representative has been doing such an incredible job since she's taken her term, and she's doing a wonderful job in creating a document that helps create the awareness that is needed to build the type of tolerance and inclusivity that we need in our communities.
Okay, and I guess, is there anything else you would like to share with the Muslim community and with people who are getting ready to vote?
Yeah, first and foremost, I just want to say thank you. I've been so incredibly blessed since 2021 to have the Muslim community open their doors, open their backyards. You've always welcomed me into your homes. You've always asked me to come in for tea every time I visit. But more importantly, you've taught me the importance of Islam. You've taught me the importance of the things that matter to you through the teachings of Islam by inviting me into your mosques. I've learned so much about your culture, what matters to you, what matters to your families. And I personally will continue to stand with the Muslim community as a whole to continue to fight against Islamophobia, but more importantly, to create that environment in this community in Mississauga, Streetsville, that is more inclusive of everyone.
Sister Sakina, thank you so much for that. Sister Aisha, did you know that roughly 15% of the population in Streetsville is Muslims?
You know, I did not know that. That is really interesting. And I could kind of get the vibe of that from the way that she was talking, the candidate. And I liked how it can be seen that she does want to prioritize the Muslim community's needs. And I do really respect that. And, you know, that could really make a big difference in the riding as well, because historically they have been a liberal stronghold, but the Conservatives have been closing the gap steadily over the last few elections. But I guess we'll have to see what the polls reveal tonight.
Absolutely. As always, it'll be interesting and we'll stay on top of it. Let's go to our host, Ahmed Ramadan, as he is standing in front of a polling station in Mississauga, Erin Mills.
Assalamu alaikum, I'm Ahmed Ramadan. I'm actually reporting live outside of St. Sebastian Catholic Elementary School, where there's a voting station inside. We tried to go inside to get you some inside footage, but we're not allowed to take videos inside. We're actually not even allowed to take pictures inside, but there's been a steady stream of voters coming in, and we wanted to give you an opinion of one of the voters. Would you mind if we ask you a couple of questions about your voting experience?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So my first question is, how was your voting experience?
It was nice and easy. I mean, really fast. I was in and out in under 5 minutes.
Did you have your voting card with you?
No, I didn't. I couldn't find it. I didn't change my address from my mom's place. And yeah.
So I think they just asked for 2 pieces of ID, and that's pretty much it, right?
Just the driver's license, too, was fine for me.
Oh, awesome, awesome. So my next question is, what are some of the issues that you're concerned about this election?
I mean, obviously, I'm younger, so I'm looking to buy a house, but it is hard in our current market. So, yeah, just cost of living is my main, concern right now.
Do you feel like there's been maybe in your circles, among your friends or people you talk to, more engagement this election, less? Do you feel like people have faith in the government, or do you feel like they've kind of lost hope?
Well, yeah, I feel like they're a lot more engaged this time around, I think, especially because we're all kind of on the same boat. Cost of living is really high right now. It's hard to afford anything. So I think, it starts with the government, right? And plus all our taxes and everything. We just, so.
Do you recommend everybody go out and vote today?
Yes, do.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, thank you for that, Brother Ahmed. Brother Muiz, you've also been busy this month, day in, day out, working really hard, interviewing people, finding out what the community wants from this election. What can you tell us about that?
The best part that I've really gotten from all of that, just hearing directly from the people that are living here, local voters, because everything they're saying is coming from so much sentiment. And I'm finding that everyone relatively has the same issues, but there are certain families that are losing relatives and families out there, and they're even more passionate about finding the voice that can help them be heard. So we were in Scarborough over the past couple of weeks, and the candidates are extremely busy. Watching their team work is absolutely exhausting. I don't know how they do it. I could never do it. I thought we had long hours. They're working almost 24-hour shifts right now. But luckily, these candidates were aware of this sentiment, and they were not shy to voice it. And I'm sure we can, in a little bit, show the voter sentiments that we captured.
Yeah, let's take a look at what they had to say.
So I think just like a lot of other people that are taking care of a family, their mother, they have kids. I think inflation is on top of their mind. Things are getting more expensive day by day. I was thinking about buying a second car, but I cannot afford it. Just recently, the gas prices did go down, but before that, gas was also becoming very unaffordable. I have 3 boys, and I hope that just the things for kids and just everyday groceries, and the rent is not stopping, it's still increasing. So just to find some relief in everyday prices.
So cost of living is going up day by day, and grocery things like like all the basic food, its prices are going up. The houses prices are going up. Taxes, they are more adding up, and now cost of living is very very high and doesn't seem to be coming down. So every time, every year they says, oh, you can taxes will be less, or you can save taxes or stuff like that, but nothing happening. Everything prices are rents day by day they are going up, and so it's really hard for a person to do provide their basic needs.
Tariffs that were recently instated from the American government, areas in Toronto and Scarborough, especially like the school boards and hospitals, I feel like funding has been diverted from them to things that aren't as important, or things that the government thinks is more important than keeping the youth and people that are not necessarily at the top of the social ladder, or at the top where you can make more money.
I think will be liberals as compared to conservatives, because liberals have more favorable policies towards Muslims as compared to the conservatives. Reason for giving my vote to liberals is that they have been more open towards the immigration, towards the Muslim community, and I think as compared to conservatives, they are a better choice. So I think I'd be going back and voting to liberals. This would be our first time that we would be voting in Canada. So hope so. We get a better candidate in terms, we vote to a better party that is liberal.
That was wonderful, getting to hear the real sense of how voters feel and what they want from this upcoming election. Now, from locals to candidates, Brother Muiz, you've been to the East End and had the opportunity to interview Salma Zahid from Scarborough Center. Let's take a look at that.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Muslim Network TV and you're watching GTA Muslims. Today, I'm your host, Moees Rahman. Today, we're reporting live from Scarborough, where I have the great pleasure of having an exclusive chat with Salma Zahid. Today, we're talking about the upcoming elections, points of concerns, and changes you can expect when she's re-elected back to office. Salma, assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for joining us.
Walaikum assalam. Thanks a lot, Moees bhai, for having me on your channel, and looking forward to the discussion.
Oh, it's our pleasure, and we have so much to talk about. But before we dive into that, can you share with us, how are you feeling at this time about the upcoming elections?
It's really great. The responses at the doors are very positive. This is my 4th election, and I think more than ever, right now, the constituents here and the Canadians are looking to us, and I think everyone is of the view that we need to elect a strong Liberal government on April 28th, so that we have someone as our leader like Mark Carney, who can stand up to Donald Trump and fight the unnecessary tariffs and also the threats of annexation. I think Canadians are united more than ever.
I love that. And I love that's also your 4th time. Congratulations, mashallah, to that. Now, when you're canvassing and you're having conversations with families at the doors, what are you finding are their primary points of concerns? Maybe 3 that you can share with us.
I love connecting with my constituents, and it has been an honor of my life representing the people of my riding in Ottawa. And I know life has not been very easy. Last few years, especially since after the pandemic, it has been very difficult. The interest rates went up, the inflation went up, and people are finding it hard to make their ends meet. We have launched many programs in the last many years, which are really making a difference in the lives of the people, like $10 a day childcare, Canada Child Benefit, dental program, start of the pharmacare, but still a lot of more has to be done. And I know with the unnecessary tariffs also, people are finding it difficult to put food on the table and pay their rent. So affordability is one of the biggest issue. And I'm really glad that Mark Carney, our leader, has announced that there will be tax breaks for the middle class. So an average two-income household will save up to $825 and that is like additional money in their pockets to make sure that they can make their end meets. So that's one big issue. You have seen in the last few years, the prices of the housing have really gone up. So housing is a very big issue. A lot of children cannot afford to move out, and they are living with their parents, either in their basement. So we have announced a very ambitious housing plan. And if elected, the Liberals, this will be the most ambitious plan since World War II. So we are planning to increase the pace of the construction of the housing, and approximately 500,000 houses will be constructed every year. And for the first-time home buyers, if they are buying a house under $1 million, there will be no GST. That will save about $50,000. So that will make it easier for the first-time home buyers, especially our young generation. I'm a mother of two, so I really understand their challenges. These are two big issues. And the third issue is fighting hate, because things have not been very easy in the last 2 years for my constituents. There have been increasing incidents of hate, like increase in Islamophobia, increase in anti-Semitism. So it is really very important that we come together as a community and as elected representative for me to make sure that everyone feels safe. Like everyone living in Canada should feel free to practice the religion they practice, to practice their heritage and live together as Canadians.
Thank you for sharing that. There's a lot of information right there. You touched on this. I would like to ask you a follow-up question on it. The tariffs. So two-part question. For the consumers that feel that the tariff is a threat to our economy, what can you tell them? And for the ones that are just feeling natural layers of anxiety and worry because the economy has been so hard the way it is and now the tariffs are being imposed, what can you tell them to just better, I guess, feel more confident about this change that could be implemented?
Things will not be easy. And there are certain things which are not in our control, but there are certain things which we can do. Okay, what US does, what Donald Trump does is not in our control. But it is really very important that we build an economy here in Canada, make sure that we protect our workers. Our workers have been there for Canada whenever Canada has needed them. Now it is time that we provide support to our workers. Because of these unjustified tariffs, a lot of jobs in the auto sector, steel and aluminum it will be difficult for the workers. There have been some layoffs, and so we will invest into our workers. We will make sure that we have policies in place, like changes in EI, making sure that they have the ability to put food for their families. So we will be there for our workers. We have to build Canada stronger so that we can stand up to Donald Trump. And I'm very confident that under the leadership of Mark Carney, because he has that strong economic background, that we can build an economy which is one of the fastest growing economy in G7. And also Mark Carney has the ability to stand up to Donald Trump, negotiate with him, bring international allies together, and make sure that we fight these. So we have introduced some dollar for dollar tariffs, and we will make sure that we continue to fight. And I just want to make it clear that never ever we will be a 51st state. We have to make sure that the sovereignty of Canada is protected. And more than ever, Canadians are united on that. So with everyone's support, I'm sure that we will elect a strong Liberal government. It's really very important that we give a strong mandate to Mark Carney. so that we can protect our sovereignty. We can make sure that Canadians are united under our flag and build an economy which works for everybody. So you have seen that very first day, Mark Carney canceled the consumer carbon tax. Carbon tax became very divisive for the Canadians. So that's why very first day he eliminated that. And we have seen the reduction on the gas prices as of April 1st, approximately 18 cents per liter. The prices have dropped. So that is like putting more money into the pockets. So that will tackle affordability crisis.
Yeah, and I love how you're also being honest about the reality. Everyone would like to go back to the Canadian dream. The reason why my parents migrated here, and it's a story for many, is to have a better outlook for the children, for the better future for them. And I can't necessarily say if financially or economically that better future is right now, but we're working towards it.
No, we are working towards it.
Right?
I also immigrated to Canada 25 years ago.
Very nice.
So October 15, 1999, I immigrated here. And the purpose was to build a better future for our next generations. And I'm very grateful that last 25 years, Canada has given us a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud to have raised my family here. I'm a mother of two, 26 and 24 years old, and both of them are working. So I understand the challenges of the new immigrants. I understand the challenges like of the grassroots people, because I started my life as a new immigrant, as a grassroots person here in Canada. And I know initially I was not working because I was a stay-home mom with my children. So my husband was earning only $1,600 and we were paying $800 as rent. So I know these challenges.
Yeah, and that is a challenge of so many people. We did a recent study with our polls that we've been doing with consumers, and more than 50% of the people that we've spoken to have expressed to us that their housing cost is more than 50% of their earnings. And in an ideal world, it should be 30%. And after paying utilities, insurance, and groceries, they say they're living check to check.
Yeah, I know with the increase in the interest rates, it has been very difficult for the people who have mortgages, and the rents have gone high. And now we see some light at the end of the tunnel. The inflation has gone down. The interest rates have gone substantially down from 5%. Bank of Canada has been reducing the interest rate. So I think I'm very hopeful about and optimistic about our future. And Canadians are I'm very proud of their resiliency. They can deal with it, and we have dealt with many crises before, and I'm sure that we will deal with the present circumstances and emerge much more stronger than ever.
Thank you for saying that. We love the vote of confidence. So I would like to share with you a couple more consumer sentiments that we're getting, and just in a couple of answers, just let us know how you feel about them or how we can combat them. We've already touched on housing, which has been the most primary concern that we've gotten. For someone who believes that crime is only rising, what can you say to put their mind at ease?
I know we need to have a safe environment for everybody, so that the mothers don't have to worry when their kids are going out. And as a mother, I'm always worried if my sons are out, what time they are coming back, and I don't sleep until they come back. So we have to make sure that Canada is a safe place for everyone to raise their families. Recently we have announced that there will be more RCMP officers. We will be training more CBSA officers to make sure that we tackle crime. There have been a lot of stealing of the cars, and we have seen. So we are trying to make sure that we put extra resources at our borders with CPSA, RCMP, so that more surveillance is done for the cars going out. And also, it is really very important that we provide youth the opportunities, like jobs, internships, so that they can be kept away from the crime. Absolutely. And I'm very proud that in my last 9.5 years, we have been able to work with our youth here. We have been able to bring Canada summer jobs. Last year also, over 200 young Canadians in my riding were able to find summer jobs through Canada Summer Jobs programs. So, and we are also providing funding to not-for-profit organizations, places of worship, so that they can upgrade their places of worship, changing the locks or making sure that they have security guards, like mosques and gurdwaras and mandirs and churches and synagogues, so that their places of worship are safe.
Sure. I would like to ask a more personal question and statement that we're finding with the people that we're talking to outside. They're saying that their vote is completely contingent upon which party or candidate will not only address but make an effort to resolve what's happening in Gaza and Palestine. Can you share your sentiments about that?
This is a very important issue for many of my constituents and for many Canadians from coast to coast to coast. Since October 7, 2023, things have not been easy. I represent a very huge Lebanese community, Muslim community. It has been very, I don't know how to describe it, but seeing all those videos and the images coming out of Gaza, parents burying their children, children seeing their parents being killed. We have lost so many innocent lives. That should not have happened. But I'm very committed for this cause. I chair Canada-Palestine Parliamentary Friendship Group, and I've been working on this even before October 7, 2023. But since October 7, 2023, I have worked with the community. I have worked with my colleagues to make sure that the voices of the Palestinian people, the people of Gaza, are heard. I was the one who rallied my colleagues and called for a ceasefire. Sent a letter to the Prime Minister asking that Canada should call for a ceasefire. That was October 20th, 2023. So I brought in 32 other MPs who signed that letter. I'm grateful to my colleagues. I have called for a two-way arms embargo. I have called for the recognition of the Palestinian state, a recognition of anti-Palestinian racism. I did 7 roundtables last summer across Canada, where I heard directly the stories of the Palestinian people. I think anti-Palestinian racism is deep, it's systemic, and it is really very important that it should be recognized within our anti-racism strategy. Because I know Islamophobia is recognized, but all Palestinians are not Muslims. Okay, and I heard heartbreaking stories from the Palestinian people. We have seen in the last many years, many months, that a lot of young people have lost the opportunity to be successful in their careers just because they are trying to bring the voices of the Palestinian people. People in my riding, from the Lebanese community, from the Middle East, have seen loss of many of their family members. Like one of my constituents lost 14 members of the family in Lebanon within 7 days. I stood with my community, and I want to assure my community that I will always be their voice. I personally went to West Bank in January 2024 to hear firsthand from the Palestinian families. And I have seen myself with my own eyes, and I have heard stories of the constant dehumanization of the Palestinian people. So it is really very important, and Canada's foreign policy has been very clear that there should be a two-state solution.
Wow, wonderful interview, Brother Moise. But firstly, I do have to ask, you've had countless interviews, okay? Every single one, you're wearing a different suit. I need a ballpark. Really, how many suits do you have?
I don't have an answer for you, but when
Too many to count?
Too many to count. Usually when we go shopping, you ask the lady how much closet space you need. Unfortunately, you have to ask me how much closet space I need between suits and Pakistani clothing. I'm all over the place.
Well, nice. I respect it.
Yeah, what's odd enough is a couple of days ago I got a DM and this lady messaged me saying I should do a picture with the color of the rainbows. And then me in suits, because I have that many different colors of suits that I could just mimic the rainbow. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna need to see a new one every single day, okay?
Deal.
Okay, so back to the interview, back on topic. That was a really powerful interview, Brother Moise. How was that experience for you? What did you learn?
Exactly how you said it. It was powerful. She was so passionate, and she was not shy to talk about even her personal experiences to relate to common concerns, especially when it comes to cost of living. So when I was chatting with her, to an extent, I was almost tears in my eyes because you could feel the emotion through her.
Absolutely.
So I see why she has such a loyal following. And I was so inspired by the fact that she did not hold back. She was vocal about what she felt. She was vocal about everything that she feels her voters are experiencing, and I think that was very special in itself.
And I think the reason why she has such a loyal following is because she's been so loyal to Canadian Muslims and what we need for our future. So I think that's a really beautiful thing as well.
That's exactly what we need. Muslims need a voice that they can count on, that's for sure. Toronto Danforth, traditionally a Liberal stronghold under Julie Dabrusin, is facing a strong NDP challenge from Claire Haxel, with key issues including affordability, housing, and climate action. Smaller but growing Muslim and racialized communities are also raising foreign policy and human rights concerns.
Midwife, I spend every day taking care of families and I see how much they're struggling. People are really ready for a change in Toronto Danforth. They are tired, sick and tired of 10 years of the same Liberal MP who's really let them down. The Liberals had said there was an arms embargo with Israel, and then lo and behold, arms were sold again to Israel from Canada.
So tell me something that you love about Toronto Danforth.
Yeah, I mean, it breaks my heart that in a country as diverse as Canada, that there is a rise of hate, and there is. The food. We have some of the best food in the city.
Assalamu alaikum, I'm Ahmed Ramadan from Muslim Network TV, and this is GTA Muslims Today. I'm standing here with Claire Haxel, running in Toronto Danforth. Claire, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks so much for having me.
So my first question to you is, what's motivated you to get involved in politics this election cycle?
Oh gosh, there's so many things. I think the big one is the cost of living, affordability, and taking care of families. I'm a midwife. I spend every day taking care of families, and I see how much they're struggling with the cost of living, with unemployment, with the cost of daycare. And these are things that, you know, we can really make a meaningful difference on and change people's lives, but we need the political will to do it.
So why have you chosen to run with the NDP?
Oh gosh, well, the NDP is the party of working people. You know, from our very starting to then turning into the party that brought in universal health care. You know, as a midwife, obviously, universal health care is really important to me, and it's just the party that shares all of my values.
So you've obviously been speaking a lot to the community and knocking on doors. How has that experience been?
Oh, it's great. I mean, people are really ready for a change in Toronto Danforth. They are tired, sick and tired of 10 years of the same Liberal MP who's really let them down. She does not hold her government accountable to promises that they make and then walk back. You know, just earlier in this election, the Liberals had said there was an arms embargo with Israel, and then lo and behold, arms were sold again to Israel from Canada, and our MP has been silent on this issue, and she won't even take questions on it. And frankly, people in Toronto Danforth expect better. They expect their politicians to be accountable and to take questions from constituents.
So you live obviously in a very diverse neighborhood and community. Do you feel like there's been a little bit more fear in regards to what's taking place in the US and some of the Islamophobia and the situations that's unfolding?
Yeah, I mean, it breaks my heart that in a country as diverse as Canada, that there is a rise of hate. And there is. There's a rise of Islamophobia. There's a rise of anti-Semitism. There's been backlash against LGBTQ people. And it breaks my heart, because really what Canada is so great at is when we come together, respect differences, and work together to make our country stronger.
So tell me something that you love about Toronto Danforth.
The food. We have some of the best food in the city, from Little India to the Danforth to down in Riverdale where I live. There's so much great food from so many different cultures here. And I just think that's a real reflection of the diversity of our community, and that there is so many different people who are bringing their culture, their food to our community, and we're sharing together.
So maybe after the election, we could come down and you could show us some of these spots and we could highlight them for our viewers. But my last question to you is, if you have a message for our viewers this election, what would that be?
My message is that we can do so much better. We can have politicians who stand up for human rights, who are working to make housing more affordable, who are going to protect $10 a day daycare and pharmacare and health care. But we have to elect them. And in Toronto Danforth, that means voting for Claire Haxel on April 28th.
Claire, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
I don't know about you, Brother Moise, but that conversation just made me hungry.
Is it because you brought up food?
Absolutely, because she brought up food. We're going to have to take her up on that offer one day. Absolutely.
No doubt. In fact, better yet, let us know in the comments below which is your favorite place to go for Danforth.
Yeah, and we'll take one of those suggestions and we'll check it out. Now, from Willowdale, held by Liberal Ali Assasi, faces challenges from Conservative James Lynn and NDP's Christy Khairallah. Voters are focused on affordability, housing, and public safety, while Muslim and racialized communities are pressing candidates on international human rights, especially Gaza. Let's take a look.
I decided it's time for me to step up for that generation because I hear it from everyone, my friends, my family, everyone in my generation that struggles in the same way. Willowdale is it's a neighborhood that is heavily rental market oriented. What I think about Jagmeet, and I've always thought it, he's such a wonderful and compassionate leader, and that is exactly what we need in Ottawa, for someone to actually care about people. It's very important that, we use our voices to engage in electoral politics.
Assalamu alaikum, I am Ahmed Ramadan for Muslim Network TV, and this is GTA Muslims Today. I'm standing here with Christy Khairallah. She's an NDP candidate for Willowdale. Christy, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
So my first question to you is, as a younger candidate, what's motivated you to get involved in politics right now, and why the NDP?
Of course. So I'm a young person, I'm a young professional, and I'm very lucky to have a full-time job and full-time job security. And to me, it is absolutely just unbelievable how at my age, with everything that I have, it is still getting more and more impossible to afford both rent and groceries at the same time. To me, this is not the Canada that I, was told I was going to come to. Canada is a land of opportunity, and it is something that I truly believe in. And so when I learned about the political landscape here and found out, it's actually the NDP that brought free healthcare to Canada. It's the NDP that pushed for workers' rights and pension and anti-scab legislature. All of these things that makes Canada what Canada is. I decided, it's time for me to represent that young voice, and it's time for me to take a stand and step up for that generation to make, sorry, I'm starting to get a little distracted now, but because of the wonderful support that we're getting here for the NDP, as you can see. But I decided it's time for me to step up for that generation because I hear it from everyone, my friends, my family, everyone in my generation that struggles in the same way. So
speaking to a lot of people in your kind of generation, like you're saying, do you notice more engagement this election cycle, and why do you think that is?
Unfortunately, I'm not, seeing a lot more engagement. I think the reason why is because a lot of people are now feeling more deterred from participating in electoral politics because they don't think it's enough. I think that's a misconception because progress doesn't happen from one day to the other. Progress is a continued effort from people like myself and people on the ground that are activists and people who do the grassroots work and organizing. And so I think it's important for people to remember that in order to drive that progress, electoral politics, it's one piece of the puzzle, but it's a very important one as well. This is what I'm seeing. And I'm trying to push that message to encourage people like myself to sort of try to see a little bit more what the political landscape looks and what it can look like with their engagements.
So you've been obviously knocking on a lot of doors and talking to many different people. What are some of the main issues that you're hearing from the community?
Absolutely. So one of the main issues has been affordability at the forefront of everybody's minds. Willowdale is a very, it's a neighborhood that is heavily rental market oriented. And we see it along the Young Corridor and all the condo buildings. And for people, it's really like the affordability that is important to them. It's making sure that their kids can be taken care of, childcare, for them to afford groceries at the same time, to feed their kids, to feed their families and themselves, and also afford rent in Willowdale. We're seeing this topic across Canada. So door to door, it's really like it's been such a wonderful and an eye-opening experience. Connecting with people of all different thoughts and school of thoughts about a shared value, which is affordability. And it's also been very amazing to sort of bring to them explain to them what I bring to the table as an NDP candidate who is fighting for affordability truly, as opposed to the other parties that are in it for the top 1% or the corporate landlords or people who have already made it. And it's been very, very enlightening to sort of see how they respond to a candidate who truly is fighting for the people like myself, the regular working people, because they've had enough of feeling neglected by their governments.
So we're here at the Jagmeet Singh rally in Toronto. What is your feeling of him as the leader of the NDP and the event itself, actually?
The event itself is amazing. I think it's always a great it's always a great opportunity to rally like this, and because right now, especially E-4, E-5, we're seeing the end, the final stretch of the campaign. It's important to remind ourselves why we're doing this, and it's important to keep the energies up so that we can bring it to the finish line and bring those important progressive voices to Ottawa. But what I think about Jagmeet, and I've always thought it, he's such a wonderful and compassionate leader, and that is exactly what we need in Ottawa, for someone to actually care about people, to actually care about the regular working people, and not to neglect the people that he represents in Canada as a whole.
So, final message for our viewers. What do you want to leave them with?
I want to leave them with the sense that right now it's feeling a bit hopeless for people in Canada, across Canada, even in Willowdale. I've seen it knocking on doors. Everybody's always surprised to see someone with progressive views knocking on their door. And they're always also surprised to hear that there are more progressive voices than we think. And it's very important that, we use our voices to engage in electoral politics, because at the end of the day, it's mobilizing our voices and unifying together that's actually going to be pushing progress forward. And we don't want to lose sight of that, especially during a very important election like this one.
Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Brother Ahmed, for that wonderful interview. Now we are going to be heading to an analysis. Joining us now, we have registered social worker Noha Dakrub and Hussam Munir, an expert on Canadian Muslim political history, to explore key issues driving the Muslim vote this election. Assalamu alaikum to you both. How are you?
Very, very good. Thank you for asking, and assalamu alaikum to you as well.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Now let's start with some concerns that people have. So what concerns do marginalized communities, what are they raising this election cycle? Let's go to Noha.
So, a lot of the issues that are at play are, not very different from what they were 6 or 7 months ago when Justin Trudeau was still the prime minister, except there's an added major issue that everybody's in Canada is concerned about, which is Donald Trump and how we would deal with his threat of not only the tariffs, but about our sovereignty as a country. So I think the biggest issue that has dominated this election is who is the best leader to deal with Donald Trump and to deal with the tariffs and the impact of the tariffs that, Canadians are going to start feeling inevitably. But the remaining issues that are still at play are still similar to all of the issues that people were concerned about during Justin Trudeau's time, which is affordability issues. And at the heart of that is the housing crisis and, taxation issues around the carbon tax and all of that. Although Mark Carney did get rid of the carbon tax before he went into the election, which was a good idea. But there's questions that have been raised by the Conservatives of how genuine that is. And of course, Gaza. People are concerned about Gaza and what's going on in Gaza, not just Muslim Canadians or Arab Canadians, but Canadians who are on the progressive side of things, who are concerned about human rights and just don't want to see this going on in the world and want Canada to take a stronger, more human rights-centered approach.
And to follow up on the Trump tariffs, do you believe they're clouding over other important issues that we should be focusing on?
Yes, absolutely. I think Trump, has taken over all of our airwaves since he has taken office and started his on and off tariffs towards Canada. So yeah, he's absolutely the center of everybody's attention during this election, and it is largely the reason why other parties that are smaller and usually do a little bit better are currently not doing very well, because this election has become a binary choice between the Conservatives and the Liberals as to who would be the person or the leader who would be better suited to deal with Donald Trump.
Thank you so much for that, Sister Noha. Brother Hassam, Assalamu alaikum, it's Moise here. Brother Hassam, this question is for you. You have a background in political history of Canadian Muslims. How have Canadian Muslims voted in the past election, and what issues shaped their choices?
Yeah, so it depends on how far back you want to go, but I think it's important to recognize the presence, the continued presence of Muslims in Canada going back all the way to the mid-19th century. And since we have the story of Hussein Rahim in 1912, who was the first person who tried to vote, cast a ballot in a Canadian election, actually was arrested for it, ultimately acquitted. And then you jump forward, you have a growing Muslim community over time. In 1964, you have the first Muslim elected to public office in Canada. That's Ahmed Ali Farran, elected out of the Northwest Territories. Again, that's in 1964. And when we come to the turn of the century into the 21st century, we have a population of about 500,000 Muslims in Canada, and that population has increased significantly since then. Muslims now represent 5% of the Canadian population, according to the most recent census that we've had. Now, I think it's important to recognize that at the turn of the century, the voter turnout in particular, that form of political engagement, which is just one of the forms of political engagement, it started to increase significantly in the elections that we had in 2004 and 2006, moving all the way to 2015, when there was a record and very influential Muslim turnout at the polls. Apologies, but since then it does seem to have wavered a little bit more. Of course, we've had the pandemic, we've had a bit of a complicated ride. We've had the Quebec City mosque shooting, and we've had a growing Muslim population, which means more diversity of views, people having many different approaches to political engagement in Canada. And we've had some level of what has been, chalked up, I think, too much to voter apathy, but really might reflect a true legitimate discontent with the system and the degree to which the system actually responds to the needs of Canadians. So I think that this election is going to be very telling to see where we stand today and what the future will look like for Muslim political engagement with the vote and beyond.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I would like to ask you, with the research that you're doing, the conversations that you're having right now, do you expect this time around the Muslim vote to be the most influential, even going as far as back as you did?
Yes, I do think that it will be very influential. The conversations that I've had with my family, with the people in the Muslim community and beyond the Muslim community, in many other minority communities, marginalized communities, are that it is really a time for change, and that people are willing to not only step up to cast their ballots, but also to get involved in politics in all kinds of ways, whether they're running as candidates or whether they're, building power, getting into positions where they can have different forms of influence, whether it's through social media, in community spaces, whether it's through the media proper. So all of these things have been happening. And I do think that people are ready for change, not only in the fact that we want a new government, we want a significant shift in policies that will better respond to the needs and the desires of Canadians, their aspirations, but also the fact that electoral reform, which is not something that has been discussed very much in this current election campaign, is something that is on the minds of many people. And when I say not been discussed very much, that's, by the candidates and the parties themselves, but going back to 2015, that promise that had been made by the Liberals, who then came into power and stayed in power for the next decade or so, that they would have electoral reform, that we would find a system that was better suited than the first past the post system that we currently have. All of these things are factoring into not just the fact that, we want a new government, but we want a new and better way of doing things. And we want to make sure that we work within the government and in the public sphere in many different ways to try to ensure that that happens.
So we're not able to hear you.
How are
Yeah.
you?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there you are.
Oh, we're good.
Assalamu alaikum, brother. How are you? Can you hear us?
Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, we are good. Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you so much for making the time to join us.
No,
We were
thank you.
just talking about the history of how Muslims have voted in the past and what kind of changes in the election are making them change their ballots and how they influence where our country is taking its next steps. Now, I wanted to follow up on Noha on another question about social issues. So social issues have been at the forefront of voters' minds. Topics such as healthcare, mental health, and housing. How do they influence voter decisions?
So for sure, I mean, specifically housing has been a significant issue over the past decade, and it's been increasingly becoming more of an issue, especially for younger Canadians who are struggling in being able to purchase property or even rent these days, because rent prices have skyrocketed as well. These issues are certainly on the minds of Canadians. So is healthcare, and so is mental health. Although healthcare and mental health tend to be a little bit removed from federal politics because they're quite significantly influenced by the provincial governments. But housing is not, and housing has been an issue that the Trudeau government significantly struggled with, because for a long time they didn't necessarily recognize that there was a housing crisis from coast to coast, and it took them some time to actually start presenting solutions at the federal level. But even then, none of those things have actually come to fruition, and we haven't actually seen any significant improvement because it takes time to build homes. It takes time for interest rates to stabilize, and there's all sorts of reasons why that also impacts the development of new homes. So for sure, these are issues that are certainly on voters' minds. It's just, unfortunately, we are living at a time where we are dealing with a president, who is our neighbor down south, who is not very friendly to us and our economy, and that seems to have become the issue that has dominated this election.
Sister Noka, thank you so much for sharing that. Mental health is one of those topics that's always very touchy to touch upon, but it's also very important to talk about it. Once again, I would like to introduce Mohammed Faki. Thank you so much for joining us, a renowned entrepreneur, philanthropist, and advocate. Brother Mohammed, the question that we have for you right now is, as a business leader and a community advocate, what are the biggest concerns you're hearing from Muslim Canadians for this election?
Well, I mean, number one, thank you very much for having me. And thank you very much for every community organization, every member of the community that has worked hard. As I said it before, and I'll say it again, our community has been doing a change on our scheduling every single morning. We usually start with a prayer, and then we do some maybe gym, and then get ready and go to work. Now our community get up, do the prayer, do 2 to 3 minute crying over internet, over the people of Gaza, what's happening to our protesters, who and which politician tweeted calling us terrorists and other names. And then we put a face, a smile, and we try to go to work. And God help you if you're an employee or a doctor at a hospital or a journalist like yourself, because you could be fired any day just by saying or doing what we say every single day about any other child, about any other woman, about any other community. About even using starvation as a weapon. You could be losing your job, using your livelihood, using everything you built in your life. And that makes and made Gaza being number one for the Muslim community on the ballot. That said, despite that, that was faced by a very, very important issue, is the fear of a Pierre Poilievre. The fear of electing Pierre Poilievre. It was countering our interests and voices to be as loud as we would like to be and advocate as loud as we can against the parties that they were not good to us and we were not clear, or they were not true to the promises they made before Gaza started or before this election came about. And that's what happened. So the Muslim community was unfairly treated during this election, because we had, and I said that in the advocacy day in Ottawa last January, I had a speech where I said, you know, it will be your report card during election day, and we will treat you, judge you, and vote for you based on how you acted on Gaza. I was wrong. We were not able to do that. And I told them that you will be not doing things to the community the way we supported you and what we deserved, but you will be mostly counting on the fear from Pierre Poilievre to use our community to run back to you to elect you. And sadly to say, and I'm liberal, I have to make it clear, I've been liberal in all my life. Nukha is a friend for many years, and she's known me and her. We've done many elections. I've been on the bus of the Prime Minister. Paramount was one of the regular stops for Justin Trudeau. Our community called our children Justin, as much as we believed in the liberal. But unfortunately and sadly, when the first thing we want to scream about is Gaza, we were not able to say it as much as we can, and that divided the community a little bit.
Thank you so much for the answer, Brother Muhammad. I wanted to follow up. Do you think this was a missed opportunity for both the Liberals and the Conservatives, given how they haven't advocated for Palestine as much as they should have?
Well, I mean, they don't see it a missed opportunity. They actually, I said it before, their English changes when they talk about Gaza. Their language, their ability to speak English becomes slower. You know, if you watch many videos of these lovely so-called leader, because leadership is all about doing the right thing, saying the right thing, even and more so when it's difficult. And leadership is all about doing the right thing even when it hurts. And you do it until it hurts. Because if you didn't do it until it did hurt you, that means you didn't do it enough. And so for the Conservative, it's not a missed opportunity for them. That's what they believe in. The Conservative Party, you know, has gifted election 3 to 4 times to the Liberal by them continuously picking every single time another leader and another leader that is so much to the right that not even Conservatives themselves would like to vote for them. And in this last election on the Conservative side, all what they did, they ran a terrible campaign. They were feeling that they're going to win anyway, and now they will be losing tonight for sure, inshallah. But the numbers says, even ChatGPT said that they will lose and the Liberal will win at 177. But the bottom line here, all what they did, they decimated the People Party. Alhamdulillah, Allah had better plan for us to have the People Party decimated by the Conservative. And as well, that caused a little bit of decimating part of the seats of the NDP, and part of why the NDP will lose a lot of seats is their position on Gaza. They lost a lot of the money, they lost a lot of the support of some communities or some business leaders that because of their bold decision on Gaza and position on Gaza, they no longer wanted to do that. As far as the Liberal concern, I would say this is one of their biggest strategic mistake I've ever seen a party doing, because they decided, along with some of our brothers and sisters from the Muslim community, they're well-intended definitely, to say, are we going to be able to make this community happy? And if we gave them 5 points, but they want 7, they're going to still be not happy, and we're going to upset other communities. And I don't know if I have an extra minute to explain this a little bit, but I'm going to break it down for a second, which is very important for us to understand. Our brothers and sisters in the Jewish community we all know they're 50-50. 50% of them actually say not in our name, and I'm not sure if it's exactly 50. But the other side, the pro-Israel side of it, right? They're not as powerful as we all think and assume. And the idea that they can see my watch while I'm sleeping in my own bed, and the idea that they're much stronger. And no, I don't think that happened. They didn't win in Toronto. They didn't win in Canada. Yeah, they caused us to have some employees fired and everything. Our community, alhamdulillah, stood on its own. And it's not a war. They have an opinion. We have an opinion. The politicians, and especially the liberal, they decided to weigh in on the side that it's against our protesters. It's against why we all voted for the Liberal Party. It's against what the Liberal Party stood for. And that's why I said a long time ago, I'm liberal, but this crew has lost its way. So the Liberal Party and a lot of the politicians in Canada, their situation is difficult. If you want to be in government, you need to deal with the US. If you want to deal with the US and you took a position against Israel, the Israeli lobby in the US is much, much stronger. So it's beyond the lobby in Canada. It's about the lobby's strength around the world and the international relationship, the foreign affairs with those government that it's dominated by the Israeli lobby, like the United States and other places. So that's on the liberal side on one point. The second point, there is an old song that it says, you dance with the lady that brung you. That means you go out with a woman, right? To make it halal, you take your wife out. You don't dance with somebody else, you dance with your wife, right? So, and the liberal were dancing with everybody else's wife. They were trying to dance with like, you're going to leave your wife that brought you to the party. It's a real song, actually. And you know, the Prime Minister Mulroney used it before. And he said, you dance with the lady that brought you. And the liberal decided to leave the voter that wanted to name their children Justin. Mm-hmm. And when I used to travel from riding to give endorsement to so-called today ministers, that they are lacking so much leadership and they need to go back to school to study what leadership is all about. And before that, what a human being, and what does it mean, a human rights, and what does it mean that we're allowed to protest, and what does it mean, you know, people talked about DEI and several 3 letters, and they show off, but as soon for some reason, Gaza started, all this was buried. Freedom of speech was buried. You know, the right to process was buried. You know, the right of different people saying their opinion, well, that should not affect their professional position, was gone. You know, international law, gone, right? So the Liberal Party made a big mistake. And a lot of members in our community, I wouldn't say a lot, some members of our community should have conditioned even their participation in this election to where the party will stand for. This is not a party that we're going to try again. We have tried them for 2 years. We have advocated with them for 2 years. We have sat down with them in a private room for 2 years. And all what they do is they lie to us in the room, they come out outside and they put something different. Or when they say ceasefire, they'll come out with another 3 minutes that they will say something against it, right? So, including until last week, one of them said, you know, it's not right that they gave us a list to be able to be voted, but at the end they said, but Hamas. Okay, but there's no Hamas in the West Bank. What are you talking about, Hamas? Like, there's no way that you're still ignorant. It's just you're intentionally ignorant and you're balancing your principles. Is this the kind of leaders that we want around us? That's not. So I would say to your question, and I know it was long answer, the biggest mistake the liberal I've seen doing strategically is trying to do a deal over the business, the votes of the Muslim community, because that was the biggest amount of volunteer they used to have, the biggest amount of supporters they used to have. We were a lot of money. It was a lot of money coming from the from liberal follower from the Muslim community, not because we believed in them, because they were the only party we felt safe with, and now they're no longer that.
Thank you so much for that thoughtful answer, brother. I want to take what you said and I want to get Brother Hassam's opinion on that. So, given your background, how do you believe culture and religious values impact Muslim voters' political choices? Do you believe the parties are doing enough?
I would say that the parties are, it's easy in our era, to be candid, to pay lip service to being accepting DEI, some of the things that Brother Muhammad Faqih just mentioned very eloquently, I would say. But I don't think that they are really reading what the Muslim community or hearing what the Muslim community is actually saying to them. And it's not just about foreign affairs and what's happening in Gaza and Palestine, but it's a reflection what your policy is towards the worst kinds of human rights violations, regardless of cultural differences. The thing is, the atrocities transcend anything that we can say is attributable to cultural differences or anything like that. But to turn away, to turn a blind eye, and to just pay ineffectual lip service to ceasefire and things of this sort really shows a broken moral compass, right? It shows a lack of moral clarity that you then think that these same leaders, if they can't, despite having all the information, seeing all the videos, if they can't really take a moral stand here when it comes to the issues that affect us here in Canada, it's also going to be perhaps difficult to trust them to take the right decisions, to make the right choices and put the right things into effect, even when it makes them uncomfortable. So I would say that, there is in our culture in Canada a lot of respect for all the different, cultures and peoples of different backgrounds who call this country home, who make this country great through their unique contributions and their presence. But at the same time, there are certain issues that need to be addressed that have not been properly addressed at all.
Brother Hassam, thank you for sharing that. And I do want to thank all three of you for being so candid with your answers. I'm sure our viewers are getting a lot of value from it. Sister Noha, I have a question for you on this one. How well are social services meeting the needs of Muslims and marginalized communities in this election?
So it's a bit of a difficult question to answer because, again, most social services are the responsibility of the provincial governments. So the federal government doesn't necessarily have, a direct relationship to that, to at least the delivery of social services. But, the federal government has done some pretty good things recently. They did, bring in $10 a day childcare. They also brought in pharmacare and dental care, which were programs that the NDP actually pushed them to bring forward. So those things are pretty good, and people are fairly happy with those things. But I think the bigger issues that have kind of clouded Trudeau's term have kind of taken away from all of the good things that he was able to do, such as childcare and dental care and pharmacare.
Sister Noha, thank you so much for sharing that. Now we will be wrapping up in a few minutes because the polls are closing. But before we wrap up this amazing interview, can each of you, we'll begin with Sister Noha first, just share your final thoughts on not only how you're feeling about the election, but certain things that are very dear to you that you would like to see a change in?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, of course, I want to see a stronger stance on Gaza. I want to see a much more clear I want to see clear conviction when it comes to international law and human rights, especially with what's going on in Gaza. I'd like to see Palestine recognized as a state, because I think that does need to happen, and G7 countries need to start that recognition. Otherwise, this is just going to continue on and on forever. And I would also like to see, like every Canadian, it's really important that we have a leader who's able to defend our sovereignty and make sure that we get through whatever the next 4 years will bring towards us economically, which may be pretty tough. We don't know. And I also want to see a leader who's going to seriously fix the housing crisis, because young Canadians deserve an opportunity like their parents and grandparents to actually be able to have a good life in this country.
Thank you for sharing that. Brother Hassam, you can go next.
I think you're muted, brother.
Sorry, I'm unmuted now. Okay.
Perfect, there you are.
I would echo a lot of what Sister Noha just said. In fact, I would echo everything. I think all of those are very important things. I also want to see in this election, I'm very keenly looking at the voter turnout and how the Muslim community and Canadians in general vote in this election in the context of everything that we've discussed, everything that we've seen, and what we are hoping for, aspiring for moving forward. And I'd like to see sustained political engagement and public sphere engagement from my own community, from the Muslim community beyond election day. It's very important, as has been emphasized, to cast our votes. But at the same time, there are many different forms of engagement that we need to increase our participation in. We need to show up. We need to regularly engage with MPs. We need to make our presence felt, to make our voices heard. And that's something that requires really an active effort. And it is a sacrifice to go out and do that on a regular basis. But the only real way I think we are going to see change is if beyond election day, we go out to whoever comes into power and say that this is what we need. We're willing to work with you, but we need some honesty. We need some transparency, and we need to have real conversations and not just performative conversations about what the right thing to do is. We need to actually do the right thing. We're here to help you, whatever is required from us, but we need a real commitment from you, our elected leaders, to make that happen.
Great, thank you so much. And Brother Muhammad?
Thank you so much. Thank you for every one of you. I think these are unprecedented time for our community, where we have several TV stations covering today the election live. That's amazing. That shows to everyone out there, I have a message. Believe in our community. We're no longer emotional as much as we used to be. And we have the right to be emotional over Gaza. We have the right to be emotional when we see double standard in the country that we love, Canada. One set of human rights for us and our children back home, and another set for the rest of the world. But our decisions are not made anymore based on emotions. We have many organizations like yours, like CMPAC, Canadian Muslim Vote, NCCM. I don't think I could be fair enough to list enough organizations, or I'm sure I'll forget some. But the bottom line and what's important here, our community is today very well educated community. We have a lot to learn. Have a faith in your power of voice. We were able to be in this election over 50 swing ridings. Imagine 50 swing ridings. The Muslim vote could swing 50 ridings. I'm just going to tell you another small story that is an indication of how it works being on a bus of a prime minister. If you saw Jean Chrétien taking a plane, it's someone I love and I respect, because he did say what Trudeau didn't say. He said to the US, you go on your own to the war against Iraq. I'm not coming with you. And we, the people, wanted to name our children Justin. We expected Justin Trudeau to say the same, but he didn't. But the bottom line here, they flew Jean Chrétien to Oakville East riding Anita Anand to save her, because the Muslim community were pushing her to the limit and verge of possibly losing. We knew she will win eventually. We don't know until now, but we expect her to win. But even if she did, we gave them a sample that if you go sit in one place and lie about our community and say that if you do call for an independent Palestinian state, you fuel anti-Semitism, and on the other meeting you go and say the opposite of that, we will hold you accountable and we will give you a sleepless night. To the extreme, Chrétien had to fly to make her feel better about those sleepless nights. And bringing a Chrétien only happens to support the prime minister. The only time we brought a Chrétien as liberals, when Hazel McCallion and Chrétien together endorsed Justin Trudeau, and they were on his bus. And they had to bring a Chrétien to try to salvage Anita. So the Muslim community is no longer weak. Keep your chin up. We have many things that we could control. Don't overpromise yourself. It's a growing pain. The children, when they wake up at night, they're crying because they're growing. And the pain that you're feeling today as a Muslim community is a growing pain because we're growing. So celebrate the growing pain. Celebrate this new organization. They're not perfect. Celebrate shows like this. Is not perfect, but we'll get there, all of us together. And the second part is show up and vote. If you're in Oakville East, don't vote for Anita Anand, but show up and vote. And why I say that, I did support Muslims Vote.ca. I was on the steering committee from day one, and I never came out until 8 days ago to say it. There's a lot of liberal there, but specifically Anita, because she's a minister. She was a minister of defense, and until today she refused to say 2 ways embargo, and to say that she will even advocate for it. And when she was told in the room, but look, she said, I'm a minister, I can't do it. Well, Nate did it, we told her, and her answer was, good luck to Nate if he'll become a minister after he said that. Well, what is she saying and defining? That if you're a liberal minister, if you want to stay minister, you do not agree to 2-way embargo, and you have basically to agree to the opposite of it. Let's sell weapons to kill the Palestinian children. So look, the bottom line here, our community, alhamdulillah, is much stronger. We need a lot of work, but let's find a reason to celebrate. We can't always find a reason to complain about ourselves. Celebrate us, celebrate our community, celebrate what we've done so far, regardless of the result. Because after the election, and I hope you all vote, there is something called the aftermath of an election, and Nukha is very aware of that. Brother Hassan is very aware of that. And I call you Nukha directly because you're like my sisters for many years, right? And they will come together and they will say who voted, who didn't, regardless who they voted for, and what are the matters that they were important to these voters. So the aftermath is not the result what's important. So please, please, please go out and vote for the aftermath of an election. And the last, what I expected from this, I hope the liberal got a slap on their wrist a little bit, right? About what happened when you dance with a different lady than the lady that brought you. And when you dance with different lady that brought you, you go back home and you're probably in a taxi, right? Nobody will take you with their car. Not the lady that brought you and not the other one that you try to dance with. So the liberal, and maybe it's not too halal, my example, but be patient on me. But that's the bottom line. What we want to send a message that we have we became much better in politics and in advocacy, and to all the parties that we forced you to have Gaza on the ballot. CBC did multiple articles and multiple coverage programs, and a lot of other TVs, how important the principle was. And that's the bottom line, what we were able to achieve. And inshallah, we'll do more, and the result will surprise us. At the end, Allah will always have better plan, as long as we keep celebrating ourselves, understand it's a growing pain, and hold everyone accountable. Thank you.
Wow, what a powerful message to send us off with. Thank you so much to each and every one of you for coming out tonight and for giving us your valuable insight. Thank you so much, and we hope you have a great rest of your day, inshallah.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. Assalamu alaikum. All right, and we've come to the end of it. Polls have already closed in Newfoundland and Labrador, and numbers are going to start coming in. How are you feeling, Brother Moise? We did it.
We did it. I love how Brother Muhammad added a little bit of halal dating advice.
Yes, lots of analogies, lots of interesting analogies. The plane?
Yeah.
Very interesting.
If by chance you took some good dating advice today, stick to it. He's right. Dance with one lady, inshallah, for the rest of your life. And that is the goal for sure.
Inshallah. Well, thank you so much for today. We're going to continue to follow how these key issues play out as the election unfolds. That was our 5 p.m. election coverage with GTA Muslims Today. I'm Aisha Ashraf.
And I'm Moiz Rahman. We'll be back with more news, interviews, and analysis later tonight. Tune in for our live 9 p.m. coverage as we bring you the results of the 2025 federal election.